robber loaded 2 special bullets into his sniper rifle and lay in the sandpit for 3 days and 3 nights in the high temperature of over 100 degrees. His friend used a flamethrower to ambush in the sandpit on the other side, ready to go. After a very long wait, a money transport truck finally arrived nearby. The escorts were pleased, but then a pile of sand appeared and blocked the way. They quickly realized something was wrong and turned the truck. The camera saw the surroundings and found nothing unusual. The driver decisively put the car in gear and decided to accelerate forward. The tires sank deeply as soon as the vehicle drove into the sand pile, and even the experienced driver's best efforts could not move the vehicle in the sandpit. Jesse, concealed on the side, saw that it was time, so he slowly stuck his head out and pulled the trigger. The escort was shocked by the gunshot and immediately fired the machine gun wildly at the sand. He not only failed to find the criminals, but all the ammunition was used up. They quickly started the emergency escape. The 2 robbers turned on the switch and used the intercom to call the police, but it was obviously too late. Another robber ran to the armored car with a flamethrower, aimed at the driver, and released a magic attack. Despite the high temperature of over 1,000 degrees, the 2 escorts paid no attention to it. They quickly opened the door and leapt out of the cab. However, they were already doomed. While running for their lives, Jesse calmly set up a sniper rifle behind the hillside. As the 2 fell one after another, Jesse, unable to contain his excitement any longer, immediately ran to the armored car and dug out the spare tire that he had prepared in advance. He quickly used the jack to lift the armored car. In less than a minute, a new tire was replaced. Then he uncovered the steel plate hidden in the sand and placed it in front of the armored car's tire. The armored vehicle easily exited the sandpit due to the close contact between the anti-sand steel plate and the tire. In this way, Jesse drove the armored car along the route laid by his teammates and drove the car into the sandpit that had been dug in advance. 3 robbers drove the stolen armored car into the desert air raid shelter to escape the police pursuit. They neatly laid steel plates over the hole. Another person covered the exposed exit with sand, and a helicopter quickly flew over to blow the surface sand evenly using the power generated by the propeller. Shortly after, the artificial burial traces and the money transporter vanished in the desert. But just when their dream was about to come true, the helicopter pilot noticed something unusual. A convertible sports car was approaching quickly in the distance. To avoid exposure, he quickly flew the plane close to the low-parked sports car and pulled out an assault rifle. The owner of the sports car instantly realized the crisis and turned around and ran without thinking. But this made the robbers more excited and they immediately shot him away. The sports car owner never expected to pick up a girlfriend just by driving by. While burying the body, the criminals were surprised by the sudden arrival of a police car. Jesse remained calm as the police car approached. He quickly got on the sports car, put on the victim's sunglasses, and drove to meet the car. But even though he acted calm and composed, he still aroused the suspicion of the police. He couldn't find any clues after searching Jesse for a long time. Soon, a large number of police arrived and surrounded the entire scene to conduct a thorough search. After 3 days, the money transporter vanished in the desert as if it had evaporated from the earth. Ultimately, the police had to release Jesse immediately due to lack of evidence. The sheriff leading the team never imagined that the money transporter he had been searching for was parked right at his feet. After the police evacuated, Jesse sneaked into the air raid shelter. The most urgent thing was to quickly take out the money in the money transporter, but his companion's words made Jesse frown. The body of the money transporter was made of high-density steel plates. It was impossible to open it from the outside, which meant that the compartment could only be opened from the inside. Several people inferred that escort personnel were hiding in the compartment, prompting the robbers to quickly put on gas masks and make a cruel decision to force the people inside to open the money transporter. The robbers took the stolen money transporter and put it in the air raid shelter. He drove into the air raid shelter in the desert and quickly put on his gas mask and poured a whole box of tear gas into the car through the vents, because only in this way could the 2 security guards in the car behave themselves. As soon as the door of the tank was opened, the 2 men were choked to tears as the smoke continued to seep in. One of them was strong and immediately took out the only gas mask he had, while the other could not bear the ravages of the chemical gas and immediately took up the radio microphone to negotiate with the robbers, claiming that as long as they could be given a way out, he would open the tank door of the money truck and hand over a full truck of banknotes. As the leader of the robbers, Jesse did not expect that what he got in return was a dragnet set up outside the car. The gangsters hiding on the scaffolding suddenly attacked and beat the security guard when the money truck door was opened. The security guard succeeded at the last moment. The surviving security team killed a robber and activated the alarm. Jesse ran quickly, but there was no gap in the anus. It was harder than reaching the sky to get the criminals to open the door. They could only use the high-temperature welding gun to start at the bottom of the money transporter, but the plate was too thick and the fuel was almost used up. They only burned a small hole. However, just when they were at a loss, the sound of a helicopter sounded above their heads, which meant that the police would soon find their traces. The robbers suddenly felt extremely panicked. Under great pressure, they gradually had differences among themselves. Even several people started to think that it was the security guard wanted to take advantage of the situation and started shooting wildly with his submachine gun. The robbers were caught off guard and sent to the northwest before they could react. Only Jesse was seriously hurt. There was still a breath left. When the security guard relaxed his vigilance, Jesse took the opportunity to pick up the submachine gun left under the car. The security guard, despite being shot, fled into the car and closed the door. Jesse persevered. He dragged his injured body and raised the welder to keep cutting the car's underside. Eventually, when the fuel was completely used up, he burned a small hole that could fit his hand. He connected the wire that controlled the car's opening mechanism. Jesse looked out and found that the security guard in the car had already died. He hurried forward to open the safe, but what he never dreamed of was that there were not only countless banknotes but also thousands of dazzling. Jesse couldn't help but smile at the huge gold bars in front of him. He was seriously injured and it was uncertain if he would survive. In this deserted desert, he couldn't move the heavy banknotes and gold bars alone. In the end, he could only be buried under the desert with these belongings. Well, the story ends here. I am a love song. Looking forward to our next meeting. The robber loaded 2 special bullets into his sniper rifle and lay in the sand for 3 days and 3 nights in the high temperature.